The Constitution of India, Preamble. We, the people of India, having solemnly resolved to constitute India into a sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic republic and to secure to all its citizens justice, social, economic and political, liberty of thought, expression, belief, faith and worship, equality of status and of opportunity, and to promote among them all fraternity, assuring the dignity of the individual and the unity and integrity of the nation. In our Constituent Assembly, this 26th day of November 1949, do hereby adopt, enact, and give to ourselves this Constitution.
Happy morning, children. In the previous class, we have discussed about strategies for the enhancement of food production. In that, few topics we have discussed. In that, animal husbandry. Below to animal husbandry, the subtopic was management of farms and farm animals, and related to it, dairy farm management, poultry farm management, a part of animal breeding. We have already discussed in our previous class, isn't it? How are you all? Happy? Hope you all are doing well, and be happy. And already there was a wording which was there in the topic below, above the topic, that is empty your mind, be shapeless and formless like water. So you have to always change, bring transformation in your mind as well as in your activities, so that you can have a better future. Okay, my dear children, so we can move on to the topic. So related to animal breeding, beekeeping, fisheries, plant breeding, and the points related to plant breeding, single cell protein, tissue culture and somatic hybridization we are going to learn today. Now, in the case of animal breeding, we have still, and that is in the animal breeding we have studied the natural way of breeding or mating the animals. And the natural way of breeding or mating the animals, it is having limitations. We cannot do in all the seasons. So for that, there is another technique or program, that is controlled breeding experiments, through which the breeding or mating of animals has been done for better production of progenies as well as for the improvement of food. So here we can see two types of controlled breeding experiments. One is artificial insemination and the second one is multiple ovulation embryo transfer technology, or it is also called as MOET. Isn't it, my dear children? It is also known as MOET. So first we are going to learn about artificial insemination. Okay. So here you can see it is a method of controlled breeding in which semen collected from superior male parent is injected into the reproductive tract of the selected female parent. That is artificial insemination. From the word itself we can say that insemen or insemination. Semen and in. It is connected to each other and artificially this process is being done, therefore it is called as artificial insemination. Here what is being done, it is a controlled breeding technique where from a superior male parent the semen is being collected and it is being introduced into the female reproductive tract, that is also the selected female parent, so that you will be getting a superior progeny, and it is being done for the increased production of the food materials, isn't it? And the advantages of artificial insemination are: number one, the semen of a single superior bull can be used to inseminate a number of female cattle. It is done in the cattle-like animals, and here from a single male parent The semen, if it is been collected, it can be inseminated into more than one female parent. That is one of the advantage. Number 2, the collected semen may be used immediate or can be frozen and used at a later date. So what semen is being collected there, it can be used at that moment or it can be used later. So for the later stage, if it is being used, it is being kept in a frozen state. Understood, my dear children? And then the frozen semen can be transported to where the female is housed. That means where the selected female parent is being kept for the breeding program, there the semen can be transported. So that is another advantage of artificial insemination. The fourth point is it helps to overcome problem of normal mating. As I told you, in every season normal mating is not possible. So to overcome such problems, this type of breeding experiment is being done. Now the second controlled breeding experiment is multiple ovulation embryo transfer technology, or it is also called as MOET, M-O-E-T. And this is very, very important, my dear children. And it is said that it is a quicker method for herd improvement like cattle, sheep, rabbits, buffaloes, bears, etc. In the case of herd improvement, this method is very, very useful. That is MOET or MOET method is very, very useful, so that we will be getting a proper superior breed, and from them we will be getting the increased production of food. And the procedure related to MOET in the case of cow is, number 1, the cow of desirable qualities is administered with FSH. The full form of FSH is follicle stimulation hormone. I think you have studied about FSH in your zoology class, isn't it, my dear children? So you may be knowing about what is FSH. It is a stimulating hormone and it stimulates the follicular part of the female reproductive body. And here it is said that the cow of desirable qualities, the cow of superior qualities will be selected there and it will be given the hormone, that is FSH. So that what happens, the cow, it produces 6 to 8 eggs instead of 1 egg per cycle. In a normal way, what will happen, in the female only 1 egg will be there per cycle, will be produced there per cycle. But when FSH is being introduced into the cow, what will happen, the cow will produce 6 to 8 eggs instead of 1 egg. Now second step related to MOET is the super ovulated female is either mated with an elite bull or artificially inseminated. So the cow which was selected here, it will be now ready for ovulation. That is the second process, the second step is there, that is it will be breeded there or mated there with the elite bull, that is superior bull, or artificially the semen will be inseminated into the female reproductive tract. And the third one is when the fertilized eggs attain 8 to 32 cell stage, they are non-surgically, that means implanted, recovered from the female. That is, in that cow, the egg will be attaining 8 to 32 cell stage, isn't it? And then from that cow, that stage, that is 8 to 32 cell stage embryo will be there. It will be implanted into the substitute cow, which will be giving birth to the new progeny. Now the next one, then fertilized eggs are transferred, you can see here, to surrogate, that is substitute mother cows. And later on, the genetic mother means the first cow which was being administered with the FSH can be again induced super ovulate and produce new embryos for surrogation. This is the procedure of MOET, my dear children. In this case, the first cow will be given FSH so that it can produce more than one egg, isn't it? And later on what will happen? 8 to 32 cell stage, when it will be taking place, the egg will be moving to the 8 to 32 cell stage. That time it will be implanted or it will be transferred into the surrogate cow, that is the substitute mother cow, where the embryo will be dividing and later on it will be reproducing a new young one which will be having more hybrid vigor than the parent. That is the procedure of MOET. You can see the illustration here, what is happening here. This is a cow where FSH is being administered to this cow, and later on the oocytes, that is the eggs, will be collected from it and that egg will be fertilized, and later on it will be cultured there. It will be having 38 to 32 cell stage and that will be transferred to the surrogate mother cow, and later on it will reproduce the progeny. This is the illustration of MOET. This MOET is very important, my dear children, the procedure as well as what is the meaning of MOET. Everything is to come in the examination. Now that is about the animal breeding, or we can say the second part of animal breeding. Now the next topic is beekeeping. Already we know that what is bee, isn't it? So beekeeping, or it is also known as apiculture. It is the maintenance of hives of honeybees for the production of honey or bee waxes. Already we have studied in our previous classes related to apiculture. Now what is the importance of the honey which is produced by the bee? We can see it is a natural aromatic sweet syrup having high nutritive values. We already know it is a medicinal part also, and it is used as medicine. It is used as a source of energy. It is used to prepare many food items, and the bee wax which is produced from the apiculture is used in cosmetics, creams, ointments, paints as well as polishes and for smokeless candles. I think I don't want to explain to you because it's already we already know about the importance of honey. Honeybees are the major pollinators of many crop plants like sunflower. This is also we have studied in our previous class. So this is about the importance of honey, which you should know, my dear children. Okay. Now the common species of bees are Apis indica. This is important. Apis indica, the name used to ask in the question paper. This is a common species of bee. And next thing is, what are the important points we should keep in mind for successful beekeeping? Number one, knowledge should be there of the nature as well as habit of bees. Isn't it? The nature, in what nature, in what kind of environment we will be able to grow the bee, or the farming of bee can be done. That knowledge we should have. Number two, selection of a suitable location for keeping the beehives. The location where we are keeping the beehives, that location should be proper so that there will be a growth and development of bees. It will be taking properly, and what we want we will be getting from that farm, isn't it? Next one, catching and hiving of swans. Swan, this term is very important as it indicates group of bees. Swarms are group of bees. So when the farm is already set there, and when there is a suitable location and the beehives are already been there, after that surely what will happen, there will be the next procedure, that is catching and hiving of swans. So that is the next step in the case of successful beekeeping. And the next one, management of beehives during different seasons. In every seasons the beehive will be there, and every season we should know what is and how we can manage the beehives. What can be done there to keep the beehives safe, and what can be done there for the more production of honey in the case of beehives, isn't it? Next, handling and collection of honey and bee waxes. And we should also know how to collect the honey as well as bee wax from the beehive. This handling and collection is very, very important in the point of for successful beekeeping. So this is about the apiculture. Now the next topic is fisheries. It is an industry for breeding, rearing, catching, processing or selling of fish, shellfish or other aquatic animals by artificial means. It's also called pisciculture. Pisciculture, I know you have studied in your previous classes, isn't it? So pisciculture is also known as fisheries, and fisheries is what? It is nothing but breeding, rearing, catching, processing as well as selling of aquatic fish or animals. And importance of fisheries is that it is used as food such as prawn, crab, lobster, oyster, and in the case of freshwater fishes such as katla, rohu, as well as in the case of marine fishes such as hilsa, sardine, etc. All these are the aquatic fishes or aquatic animals which are used as food. And number 2, it provides income and employment to millions of fishermen as well as farmers also. Okay. And number 3, the fish liver oil is used in medicines. So this is the, we can say, the importance of fishery in the case of, we can say, pisciculture or the fisheries. Now you would have known the term blue revolution, isn't it? It is related to the fish production, and here some of the techniques are there which are used to increase the food production. They are aquaculture and pisciculture. Aqua, from the word itself we can say the growing of aquatic animals in water. Aqua means water. The process of growing and harvesting of aquatic plants and animals in different types of plant bodies, and it is called aquaculture. Number 2, pisciculture, the process of cultivation, breeding, rearing and harvesting of fishes by artificial means is called pisciculture. Already this one we have studied just now. This is related to pisciculture. So these are the 2 techniques which are used there to increase the fish production, and due to that only this blue revolution name came there. Now next one, the next topic is plant breeding. So till now we have studied about animal breeding. Now we are going to enter into the next topic, that is plant breeding. So my dear children, till now you would have understood about management of dairy farms as well as poultry as well as fisheries, isn't it? So all those things are very, very important. You have to study it very nicely based on your board examination. Now the next topic is plant breeding. What is plant breeding? It is the purposeful manipulation of plant species in order to create desired plant type that are better suited for cultivation, give better yield and are disease resistance. Plant breeding is a process through which manipulation of the plant species is taking place so that we will be able to create desired plant and which are able to be, which can be cultivated and which can give better yield as well as they will be disease resistant. That is plant breeding. Now the objectives of plant breeding, number 1, improve yield of plants, that is it improve the production of plants. Number 2, the nutritional quality of plant producers will be improved. Number 3, there will be increased tolerance to environmental stresses such as salinity, that is high saline will be there in water, extreme temperature will be there, drought will be there. So these plants, they will be developing increased tolerance to such type of environment. Then next one is develop increased tolerance to insect pest, as well as it also develop increased resistance to pathogens like virus, fungus, bacteria. These are the objectives of plant breeding, and this is very important, my dear children. You have to study very nicely. Now we can go to the next part, that is main steps for the development of new genetic varieties by plant breeding. Through the plant breeding program, new genetic varieties is being developed there, and how it is being developed we have to see. So there are certain steps which we have to go through. Number 1, collection of variability. Number 2, evaluation and selection of parents. Number 3, cross hybridization among the selected parents. Number 4, selection and testing of superior recombinants. And number 5, testing, release and commercialization of new cultivars. So these are the 5 steps through which the genetically variety of plants can be developed through plant breeding program. So one by one we can see the main steps. Number 1, collection of variabilities. Here what we are doing, we are collecting and preserving all the different wild varieties, as well as the species, as well as the relatives of cultivated species. Wild varieties, its species, its relatives, everything, what all been there, we will be collecting, and it is being preserved there. And as I told you, different wild varieties is being collected there, isn't it? That is, the entire collection of diverse alleles for all genes in a given crop is called germplasm collection. This is again important, germplasm collection. What is germplasm collection? This question used to come in the question paper, and the answer you have to write is the entire collection of diverse alleles. You would have studied about what are alleles for all genes. Alleles are characters, or we can say they are the traits of all genes in a given crop, is known as germplasm collection. So first step is collection of variabilities. Number 2, after the collection of variabilities, after the collection of diverse forms of alleles of the genes, there will be evaluation as well as selection of parents. The whole germplasm evaluated to identify plants with desirable combinations of characters. The wild varieties of collection which is being done there will be evaluated, and then among those wild varieties the selection will be done, and in that selection desirable combination of character, if any plant is there, that will be selected there for the next step. Now, out of the selected plant, one type of plant marked as female parent, and while others are marked as male parent. The parent which was selected there from the germplasm collection will be marked as female parent as well as male parent. Now next, the third step is cross hybridization among the selected parent. What is cross hybridization? It is a process of crossing two genetically different plants. Already this we have studied in our previous class, and is carried out between two parents to produce hybrids with desired characters to be genetically combined in one plant, isn't it? Already this part we have studied, where we have studied how the hybridization process is taking place, where we have studied about emasculation, bagging, rebagging. All those steps will be coming in cross hybridization step. Now the fourth one is, after this process, the fourth step is selection and testing of superior recombinants. So after the hybridization process, what will happen? The progeny or the new plant will be formed there, and surely selection will be taking place and testing will be there taking place for the superior recombinants. It involves the selection of desired plant among progeny of hybrids by scientific evaluation, isn't it? Now next one, the selected hybrid is superior to both the parents, and already we have studied this term also in our previous class, hybrid vigor, isn't it? It will be having more the energy than the parent. So that is the term called hybrid vigor or heterosis, which is again very important. The next step is the selected superior hybrids are self-pollinated for several generations. So after the selection of hybrid, what will happen? This hybrid will be moving for other certain processes, and again they will be going for the same process such as cross hybridization, and again for 4 to 6 generation this process will be taking place, so that the superior hybrids will be selected there. The last one is testing, release and commercialization of new cultivars. So when the superior hybrid is there, the newly developed plant varieties will be evaluated for their yield, quality, duration, the effect of weather, disease and insect resistance in the research field. In the research field, these newly developed plants which were selected there will be going for the test based on yield, quality, duration, effect of weather, disease and insect resistance. That means whether they are disease resistant or not. For that test they will be moving, and later on if they will be there in a proper way, surely they will be superior, they are proving themselves to be superior. The release and commercialization of that new plant will be taking place there by providing them a new name, and they will be marketed in the market. So that is about the 5 main steps, isn't it? Just now we have studied. Now next one is green revolution, and we also know that what is green revolution. It is related with agriculture, is it, in my dear children? Already we have studied in our previous classes. Now based on this green revolutions, new varieties is being introduced there related to wheat, rice, sugarcane, millet, bajra. All these crops were there. They were able to produce new varieties based on the green revolution. In the case of wheat, the new variety, or we can say the semi-dwarf variety of wheat was introduced was Sonalika and Kalyan Sona. Number 2, related to rice, it is IR8. It is developed in Philippines, and in India, Jaya and Ratna is the rice which was developed there through this plant breeding program. Now the third one, in the case of sugarcane, we can see there Saccharum barbari. Saccharum is the genus and barbari is the species. When crossed with Saccharum officinarum, officinarum is the species. Now here the genus are the same, but the species are different. We can see what is there. This Saccharum barbari, it grows in North India, and the content, or we can say the sugar content present in this Saccharum barbari is very poor, as well as the yield is also very poor. And in the case of Saccharum officinarum, we can see it grows in South India. It is having thick stem and it is having a high sugar content in it. When these two plants, when they were mated together through the plant breeding program, a new variety of sugarcane was produced there, which was having high yield, thick stem and high sugar content, and it can be grown in any part of the India, helping for the production or improvement of food. Okay, my dear children. Now next part is plant breeding for disease resistance. The objective of disease resistant plants are: number 1, enhanced food production. It improves food production. Number 2, reduces the dependence and usage of fungicides, bactericides as well as chemicals. And the different types of pathogens which are there, which are causing plant diseases, they are fungus, bacteria and virus. Already we know that these are the common pathogens which are always destroying the plants. And in the case of fungus, the disease is brown rust of wheat. These are the names of diseases. Brown rust of wheat, red rot of sugarcane, late blight of potato. All these are the diseases which are taking place because of the pathogen fungus in the plants, wheat, sugarcane and potato. And in the case of bacteria as a pathogen, it is causing the disease called black rot of crucifers. Cruciferis, you already studied in your +1 related to crucifers, isn't it? It is a family, and in this family the plants are being into the disease because of the bacteria, and the name of the disease is black rot. Okay, and the last is virus. It is causing tobacco mosaic, turnip mosaic. This tobacco and turnip, they are the plants which are being into the disease called mosaic disease, and it is due to virus. So these are the diseases which are taking place normally, or in a, we can say commonly, in the plants. But through the plant breeding program, the plants which are into the process of plant breeding program, they will be resistant to these microorganisms. They will be developing some resistance in themselves. Now, method of breeding for disease resistance. How the breeding method can be done so that a disease resistance plant can be brought there. There are two methods. Number one is conventional breeding technique, which already we have studied, and there we have studied about hybridization and selection. And number two, we have studied, the second one is mutation breeding. Okay, mutation, already this term you may be knowing about it. So these are the two methods of breeding so that new plants which will be developed there will be disease resistance. In the case of the conventional breeding technique, already we have seen there connection, selection, cross hybridization, all these are the steps, isn't it, my dear children? That will be coming in this first method. And the disadvantage of this method is that availability of disease resistant genes is limited. As this is the traditional method, it is a common method, and the disease resistance plant genes which are present there in the normal plants, it will be very, very limited. The varieties which is developed by the conventional plant breeding, here we can see crop, variety name and the resistant to disease. This box you have to study very nicely as it used to come in the question paper. Okay. Wheat, the variety name is Himagiri, and the resistance to the disease is leaf and stripe rust hill bud. All these are the name of the diseases. So this wheat is having its new variety which is called Himagiri, and this Himagiri plant will be having the resistance towards leaf and stripe rust, leaf hill bud, isn't it? Number two is Brassica, and here the new variety of this plant is Pusa swarming, and the resistant to the disease is white rust. Number three, cauliflower, Pusa subra, Pusa snowball K1. All these are the names of the new varieties of these crops. Okay, my dear children, which are developed from plant breeding program. And the resistance to diseases are black rot and curl blight black rot. Okay, cowpea, here the variety is Pusa comal, and the resistant to diseases bacterial blight. Chili, Pusa Sadabahar, and the resistant to diseases chili mosaic virus, tobacco mosaic virus, leaf curl. All these are the resistant to the diseases related to these varieties as they have developed that gene in them which will be able to resist themselves from all such kind of diseases. So this is about the varieties which are developed by conventional breeding. Now the second one is mutation breeding. It is a process by which genetic variations are created through changes in the base sequence within gene, resulting in the creation of new characters or traits not found in parental type. The parent type, this change we cannot find. Through mutation breeding, what is happening there? Genetic genetic variations is taking place. That means genes are combined together and the amino acid present in the gene, that base sequence will be combining together and a new character will be formed there. Isn't it? It has been said that through changes in the base sequence. The base sequence is nothing but the structure of amino acid present in the genes. And within the gene it has been taking place, and due to that what is happening there? Creation of new character is taking place which is not present in the parental plant. Now we can see the methods through which mutation breeding is taking place. Number 1, induce mutation artificially through use of chemicals, that is by X-rays or gamma rays. The radiations are used there, or certain chemical agents are used there for inducing mutation artificially. And after that, selecting and using the plants that have desirable characters. After introducing the mutation artificially into the plants, and later on the changes we can see in the plant structure or its character, and from that selection is being done there, and in that selection the desirable character of plant will be selected there. Next one, screening the plant for resistance. Later on screening is being done through which plant for resistance will be selected there. Now examples for the disease resistance plants by mutation are moonbeam as well as Bhindi or Prabhani Kranti. The name of Bhindi means it is lady finger. Moon is nothing but it is the pulse. Okay my dear children. So moonbeam, Bhindi or Prabhani Kranti, these are the plants which are produced there through mutation breeding and their resistance to yellow mosaic virus. So I think you would have understood till here. Now the next one is plant breeding for developing resistance to insect pests. Certain plants are there which are being destroyed because of insect pest. So these plants, they will be introduced by the plant breeding technique and they will be able to develop resistance among themselves towards insect pest. And how it has been happened, you can see here. In the case of plants, hairy leaves will be developed there and they are resistant to insect pest. Number 2, solid stem in weeds. In the case of weeds, solid stems will be produced there which will be resistant to stem sawfly. And next one, smooth leaves will be produced which will be nectarless cotton varieties. That means the cotton varieties, they are having smooth leaves and they will be nectarless, so that they will be resistant to attack of boll worms. Next one is high aspartic acid, low nitrogen and sugar content in maize, and it is resistant to maize stem borers. See, all these are maize stem borers or boll worm or stem sawfly, or we can say insect pest. All these are the insect pests which are attacking the plants, so that the plants will be destroyed there. But through plant breeding program, these plants, they will be defending themselves, they will be becoming resistant toward these insect pests. So again this part is very, very important, my dear children. You have to study it. Now we can see here, released crop varieties breed by hybridization and selection for insect pest resistance. Just now we have studied insect pest resistant plants are there, that is the disease resistant plants are there which will be resisting themselves by the insect pest. So there are certain varieties of crops which are having certain resistance, so that they will be resisting themselves against this insect pest. Here brassica, that is mustard, and this brassica is having its new variety that is called Pusa Gaurav, and the insect pest is aphid, that is it is resistant towards this aphid. Number 2, flag bean, it is a pulse, and again Pusa Sem 2, Pusa Sem 3, these are the varieties of flag bean, and it is resistant towards jacid, aphid as well as fruit borer. And number 3, okra, okra is also known as bhindi, bhindi is also known as ladyfinger, and The new variety is Pusa Savani as well as Pusa A4. These are the new varieties of okra. And the insect pest towards which it is resistant is shoot and fruit borers. So all these are the insect pests, and these insect pests now they will not attack them as these plants they have developed the resistivity towards these insect pests. So this box is again very important, my dear children, you have to study. The next topic is plant breeding for improved food quality. We know that as we are developing certain symptoms, isn't it, and those symptoms will be later on will be forming diseases. In the same way, plants are also showing certain symptoms, and those symptoms are known as hidden hunger, and it is related to micro or macronutrients. Understood, my dear children? So here there are certain symptoms shown by the deficiency of micronutrients, proteins or vitamins. Those symptoms are known as hidden hunger, and these hidden hunger may develop, these symptoms may develop diseases later in the plants. So that to overcome this hidden hunger, it is necessary to enhance nutritional quality in the crops. Understood? For that there is another method that is called biofortification. Breeding crop with increasing the nutritional qualities like vitamins, minerals, higher protein and healthier fat in crop is called biofortification. This term is very important. Biofortification, it is what? It is a process or technique where breeding of crop is being done so that in them there will be increased amount of nutritional qualities like vitamins, minerals, fat or proteins. And the main objective of biofortification is to improve protein content and quality, to improve oil content and quality, to improve vitamin content as well as to improve macronutrients as well as mineral content. So these are the objectives of biofortification, and these objectives are very important, my dear children. Now examples for biofortified crops are, you can see here, in the case of maize hybrids are there, Atlas 66, iron fortified rice is present there, isn't it? So these are certain examples of biofortified crops which are having the double the amount of proteins or vitamins or minerals or fat in them when we are comparing with the normal plant crops related to maize or rice, isn't it? Now again, when we are coming to the vegetable crops related to biofortified part, we can see there carrots, spinach, pumpkin. These vegetables, they are, when they are biofortified, they are enriched in vitamin A. That is, double the amount of vitamin A is present in these biofortified vegetables when we are comparing to their normal plants. Now bitter gourd, mustard, tomato, they are enriched in vitamin C. Spinach and bathua, it is a leafy vegetable enriched in iron and calcium. Again you can see here broad bean, lablab. All these names, my dear children, you have studied in your plus one. That's why I am not giving the explanation of these. All these are the peas, or we can say these are the pulses. These are the leafy vegetables. Okay. Broad bean, lablab, French bean and garden bean. All these contain enriched protein in them. That is, in all these plants or these vegetable crops, the double the amount of vitamins, proteins, fats, all the ions, all the things which is needed there in them in higher quantity will be present there when we are comparing these plants with their normal, or we can say with their same parent plant, isn't it? So this is about biofortified vegetable crops, and the next topic is single cell protein. Here it is being said that it is an alternative method of raising food with high source of protein for animals and human nutrition. Alternative method of raising food. How? With high source of protein for animals and human nutrition. And what are the advantage of single cell protein? It is easy to grow. Where it can be grown? Microbes can be grown on a material like wastewater, isn't it? Or it can be grown from potato processing units, straws, animal manure, etc. So it is easy to grow. And number 2, nutrient rich food will be provided and it reduces environmental pollution and it is giving high yield. So single cell protein, it is nothing but it is a high source of protein given to the human being or the animals by the microorganisms, and these microorganisms, they are easy to grow, they are providing high rich amount of food, they are reducing the environmental pollution as well as they are providing high yield. Now you can see the different types of single cell proteins are, that is the microorganisms which are involved in single cell protein production are Spirulina, Methylophilus methylotropus. It is a microorganism which produces 25 tons of proteins because of its high rate of biomass and growth. So this Methylophilus methylotropus is not nobody, but it is just it is a microorganism which is providing 25 tons of protein because of its high rate of biomass as well as its growth. And next one is mushroom as well as chlorella. All these are the organisms which are contributing for the high source of protein so that it can be available for the human nutrition as well as animals. So single cell protein is again important, my dear children, you have to study. Next topic is tissue culture. It is an in vitro, or we can say within a test tube, technique of regeneration of whole plant from any part of a plant by growing it in culture medium under sterile condition. What is tissue culture? Within a test tube, or we can say in vitro means within a laboratory, regeneration of whole plant can be done by using any part of the plant as well as it can be grown in the culture medium under sterile condition. That process, the complete technique is known as tissue culture, and the principle behind this tissue culture is totipotency. And what is totipotency? It is the capacity to generate whole plant from any cell or part of a plant. And what is explant? Explant means the cell or a plant used in tissue culture to regenerate new plant in a test tube under sterile condition in a special nutrient medium. So totipotency, what it is? The capacity to generate a new plant by the plant itself or the cell or any part of the plant body. That process is called totipotency, and totipotency is the principle behind tissue culture. So in a short period of time, new plantlets, one or more than one plantlets can be developed through tissue culture. The advantages of tissue culture is the method of producing thousands of plants through tissue culture is called micropropagation. That means thousands of plants can be produced there through tissue culture. That is one of the advantage of tissue culture. Such method is called micropropagation. Number 2 is soma clone production. That is, plants produced from tissue culture are genetically identical to the original plants. Soma means identical. Clones, identical progenies will be produced, or identical hybrids will be produced there, which will be identical to their parents. Next one, disease free. This point is very important. disease-free or virus-free plants can be obtained by using meristem as explant. And the recovery of healthy plants from diseased plant. We know that as the plant is infected with the virus, but meristem is free of virus. Hence, meristem can be removed and grown in vitro to obtain virus-free plants. So these 2 points is very important. The other 2 points are also important. What is micropropagation? What is soma clone? And later on the other 2 points, that is disease-free or virus-free plants can be developed by using meristem as explant. And number 2, the healthy plants later on when they are getting into a disease, that time the recovery of this healthy plant can be done because the meristem, it is virus free. So the meristem can be used there later on for the development of new plantlet. Now example of virus free plants are banana, sugarcane and potato. Next one is the last topic of this chapter is somatic hybridization. The process of fusion of protoplast of somatic cells of different varieties of plants having desirable characters in a suitable nutrient medium in vitro is called somatic hybridization. Again I will repeat, it is a process, and what is happening in this process? Fusion of protoplast, not the fusion of gametes, but fusion of protoplast, that is somatic cells are taking place, isn't it? Somatic cells, fusion of somatic cells, fusion of protoplast is taking place, and this fusion of protoplast, it is having a desirable character, and these protoplasts will be kept in a suitable cultural medium so that the development of new plantlet will be taking place. Such process is known as somatic hybridization. Now we can see the steps for developing somatic hybrids. Number 1, selection of single cell from plants within desirable character. First one, we have to select a single cell from the plants, and this cell should have a desirable character. Number 2, the cell wall of cell is digested by treating cell with enzymes like cellulase, pectase, etc. to isolate naked protoplast. After the selection, the cell wall of the cell is digested, that is, it will be totally removed by treating the cell wall with the enzymes like cellulase, and later on a naked protoplast is obtained. The third one is isolated protoplast of 2 different varieties of plants can be fused. Now from the 2 parent cell, the naked protoplast will be obtained, and these 2 protoplasts will be fused there, and it is induced by a chemical called PEG, and the full form of PEG is polyethylene glycol. In this solution, the 2 different varieties of plants protoplasts will be fused together. And the fourth one is the hybrid protoplast regenerates cell wall which further grow to form a plant called somatic hybrid. Last, what will happen? After the fusion, the hybrid protoplast, it will be generating or it will be regenerating a cell wall, and later on the cell wall will be dividing and it will be growing to form the plant, and that process is called, or that plant which is produced there is called somatic hybrid, and the process is called somatic hybridization. Now we can see the example as tomato is taken there as one parent and potato is taken as another parent, and their protoplast will be isolated and they will be fused in a solution called PEG, and later on a new hybrid plant will be developed there, and that is called pomato. That is tomato and potato's hybrid is pomato. Now I think we have understood. We can see it in be like this in a form of an illustration. You can see here plant cell, and here you can see cell wall is there, nucleus is there, vacuole is there, and in the plant cell the protoplast is being taken there. Naked protoplast is being taken there by the enzyme cellulase, which will be removing the protoplast, isn't it? Later on, from the parent one protoplast we can see here, and parent two protoplast we can see here, and these two protoplasts they will be fused, and after the fusion we can see here what is happening there. The nucleus present in these two protoplasts will be joining together, and later on the hybrid protoplast will be produced there, which will be later on growing into a new plant. This complete step is known as somatic hybridization. So my dear children, with this the chapter is complete, and I think you would have understood the topics properly. You go through the chapter not for one time, not for two times, for many times, and if you are having any doubt related to the chapter, my dear children, this chapter is very easy chapter, as in this chapter you don't want to mug anything. If you are understanding the thing and if you are going through the points properly, you will be able to write the steps in a very proper way in the examination. If you are having any doubt, you can call me, and have a great day. Thank you.